3 HR processes are fundamental and must be documented: onboarding, offboarding, and payroll. Payroll process. Version V1.
Prepared by Larissa Zaplatinskaia, PhD. Preface. This document defines the employer capital payroll process with diff compliance. Who should use the document? The document should be used by employer capital payroll administrators.
Table of contents. 1.0 Introduction. 2.0 Environment. 2.1 Contact names. 2.2 Description of activities within the employer payroll operations delivery. 3.0 Key control points for employer payroll. 3.1 Employer payroll history. CP1 Employee validation, month-to-month variance. CP2 Payroll system inputs. CP3 Payroll verification. CP4 Payroll processing. CP5 Payroll tie-out, salary variations. CP6 Overpayment recovery. CP7 Third parties remittance. CP8 Purchased services. CP9 Final validation. 4.0 Separation of duties. Separation of duties matrix. 5.0 Data security and privacy. 6.0 Records retention. 7.0 Documents of understanding. 8.0 Application and access management. 9.0 Approval delegations. 10.0 Global process flow and controls. 11.0 Payroll calendar. 12.0 Checklist for payroll cycle.
13.0 Annex, disbursement controls. Documentary master. Revisions.
Version. Date. Author. Subject.
1.0. The 15th of August, 2013. Larissa Zaplatinskaia. Creation of the document. Reviews approvals.
Name. Title. Date. Company. Signature.
Distribution list.
Name. Title. Company. 2. CC.
1.0 Introduction.
This document is intended to provide employer capital payroll management teams or DIFC authorities and external auditors with details on employer capital payroll process, in compliance with DIFC payroll process.
The objective of this document is to describe the way to perform activities and to finalize and clarify the process flow for both sides based on discussions and working sessions. 2.0 Environment.
Scope. The Bello payroll process complies with the pattern in Part 10.0 of this document. 2.1 Contact names. Name. Role. @mail address. Phone number. Payroll admin 1. Payroll admin 2. Larissa Zaplatinskaia. Payroll manager. Name of CEO. Payroll panel payroll leader 1. Name of CFO. Payroll panel payroll leader 2. Members of the board. Payroll panel. 2.2 Description of activities within the employer capital payroll operations delivery.
Payroll administrator, operational team member in charge of processing the payroll from the request reception validation to the Payslips validation. Check validate payroll. Payroll manager, operational team member in charge of processing the monthly closing controls and the automated files. Payroll leader, the payroll leader is working in cooperation with the HR and account team. Approve payroll. Release payment.
3.0 Key control points for employer payroll. 3.1 Employer payroll history.
Today there is no HR master file in employer capital management, no SAP HR application or any other one. The only master file is in Excel sheet application. All payroll accruals are managed by employer capital management. The accruals are calculated by the HR team and transferred to accountants to include in the general ledger. Here is the full list of references, with the indication of control points.
Control point no. Control short name. 1. Employee validation. 2. Payroll system inputs. 3. Payroll verification. 4. Payroll processing. 5. Payroll tie-out. 6. Overpayment recovery. 7. Third parties remittance. 8. Purchased services. 9. Final validation.
CP1 Employee Validation, month-to-month variance. Objective: to confirm that all employees who are to receive payroll payments are valid employer capital employees. Risk: payroll payments are made to individuals who are not valid employees, resulting in excess cost or expense. Control description: immediately after the monthly payroll cycle run, a month-to-month reconciliation is performed to identify mismatches and exceptions, which are then investigated, including new hires and leavers reconciliation with information received from HR organization. Mismatches are tracked and aged through documented resolution. Employer HRD reviews and approves the final reconciliation and supporting documentation.
CP2 payroll system inputs.
Objective: to ensure that data from feeder sources, systems and manual inputs are properly authorized and accurately loaded into the payroll system in a timely fashion. Risk: results in incorrect and or unauthorized payment to employees as well as overstated cost and expense. Control description: to ensure that a reconciliation of all feeder sources, systems, and manual inputs are accurately performed on record count and amount, prior to acceptance for payment. Identified mismatches are documented, investigated, and age-tracked through resolution. Employer HRD reviews and approves the reconciliation supporting documentation. Payroll administrator is responsible for preparing action form. Payroll administrator should ensure accuracy of received data. For new joiners registration, payroll administrator should check on employee onboard serial number, names, bank accounts, all employee data, salary basic. Payroll administrator should check all action forms on mandatory information such as contractual information and personal information such as name, DOB, home station, nationality, salary, type of contract, limited unlimited, date of employment, Visa gift card, bank account, IBAN number. On the leaver's termination of contract, payroll administrator should calculate the payslip, based on the received action form from the customer, to establish a manual request for payment, check or bank transfer. Payroll administrator should check the action form to prepare termination. The payment method will be either wire transfer or check, outside the payroll. Payroll administrator should receive variable elements before 10th of each month. Payroll administrator should check on data modification, for example, a change on personal data, family situation, name, bank account number, any professional changes such as salary, job title, department, and section. CP3 Payroll Verification. Objective: to ensure manual changes to any employee records are authorized, input accurately into payroll and linked to a human resources, HR, compensation policy as applicable. Risk: payroll payments are made to individuals who are not valid employees, resulting in excess cost or expense. Control description: reviews are performed to ensure that 1. Manual transactions are appropriately approved and 2. Data is entered into the payroll system accurately and is in line with a documented policy that allows for that transaction type. Payroll administrator prepares reporting versus actions forms receive. Source for report is Excel sheets. Payroll administrator ensures that the payroll process is accurate. Payslips validation. The modifications action form should be sent as soon as the change is known by the customer.
Check the monthly payroll Excel sheet and compare with previous months if there is any unusual amount variation in amount unusual payroll activity. Make root cause analysis. Identify whether it is genuine or by error. Check the monthly payroll control sheet. Hereafter control sheet. On the follows. 1. All new joiners are added and their bank account and IBAN are correct. 2. All leavers are removed. Whoever has left the company and got his/her final settlement already. 3. There is no duplication in payment, especially for the cases, who is paid by checks. Employees are getting salary either by check or by wire transfer, but not both. Check Payslips. 1. Against leavers, that the final settlement is correct. Ask leavers to sign the copy of their Payslips, as evidence that they are agreed with the final settlement. 2. Against new joiners, that the payment is correct, especially if it is pro rata. 3. Against all variable elements, provided by finance department, overtime, unpaid leave, allowances, reimbursements, deductions, etc. Check control sheet if the list of employees is correct and there are no duplications in names, payment, or any unusual amount to be paid. Employer Capital HR team prepares Payslips closing reporting. Source for report is control sheet. The payroll administrator is formalizing the closing reports and the team leader is doing an on-top control test on a panel of employees. The manager validates that the controls have been done correctly before giving the sign-off. Payroll administrator updates new joiner's bank account. CP4 payroll processing.
Objective: to ensure complete, timely and accurate processing of employee rejects mismatches. Risk: incomplete or inaccurate updates. Control description: exceptions which have failed to update are recorded and kept in the payroll file along with documented action taken to resolve. Note that rejects can be found in pre-balancing and post-payroll balancing.
CP5 payroll tie-out, salary variations.
Objectives: to ensure that the payroll records or transactions to be processed are complete, accurate, and approved by an authorized manager. Risk: incomplete, inaccurate and or unauthorized payments are made. Control description: a reconciliation and management authorization of the interim and final payroll runs are performed to ensure completeness and accuracy of 1. Employee payroll payments, 2. Deductions and payments to third-party agencies, and 3. Investigation and resolution of errors and analysis of system-generated reports. Monthly reconciliation file. For all employees being paid, a file is maintained every month showing gross salary, net salary, employee and employer contributions. These amounts are compared month to month and any discrepancies checked and explained for each employee. Monthly reconciliation file is then reviewed and approved by HRD.
CP6 overpayment recovery.
Objective: to ensure that recovery processes are documented and in place to recover monies owed as soon as an overpayment or duplicate payment is identified. Risk: failure to collect funds due to employer capital could result in financial loss to employer capital if they are not repaid or otherwise recovered. Control description: local overpayment recovery processes and reporting methods exist with items reported on a balance sheet account. For example, negative and duplicate payments are reviewed, accurate evidence of management review, documented action plans with aging and timely recovery analysis.
CP7 third parties remittance.
Objective: to ensure that 1. Statutory payments and third-party remittances are correctly calculated, authorized, and submitted timely. 2. Amounts to be remitted tied to total processed for payroll deductions. Risk: unauthorized statutory and third-party payments could be made without detection, and or incorrect payment amounts could be remitted or late payments could occur outside of contract or regulatory requirements. Control description: employer capital does not perform third payments.
CP8 purchased services.
Objectives: to ensure complete and accurate third-party payments for HR procured services and to ensure that purchased services are performed in accordance with contract terms and payroll requirements. Risk: incomplete, unsubstantiated, and or inaccurate third-party payments could result in a financial loss to employer capital. Control description: employer capital does not perform purchased services. Not applicable because service provided by employer capital is cost-free.
CP9 final validation.
Final validation is done by employer capital CFO and employer capital HRD. Payment approval is done by Untitled and Larissa Zaplatinskaia before payments.
4.0 Separation of duties.
Objective: confirm that a current and complete evaluation of task assignments and accesses has been performed to ensure that adequate separation of duties has been established and potential conflicts were identified. Confirm that appropriate action was executed to eliminate or mitigate risks associated with separation of duties conflicts. Risk: failure to establish controls which identify conflicts that exists between tasks and accesses and or failure by management to eliminate these conflicts or mitigate the risks associated with these conflicts could allow fraud or errors to occur without timely detection and result in a loss of employer capital assets.
Separation of duties matrix. Planning separation of duty. Payroll Admin 1. Payroll Admin 2. Payroll Specialist 1. Payroll Specialist 2. HR Director. Accountant. CFO. CEO. Sending attendance reports. Validation and closing attendance reports. Sending joiners leavers promotion S. Sending Excel file variable elements. Sending control file to HRD. Validation by HRD. Validation by CFO. Payroll approval. Transfer banking file to bank accountings file. Transfer file sending to bank. Upload payroll and bank application. Sending payslip. Last working day. 5.0 Data security and privacy.
All employer capital mails containing personal or sensitive data must be encrypted. If the files joined contain personal or sensitive data, they must have a password and the password must be sent separately.
6.0 Records retention.
Objective: to ensure employer capital records are properly classified and stored in order to safeguard employer capital informational assets and those documents are properly maintained to comply with regulatory retention requirements. Risk: failure to properly store and classify documents exposes employer capital to potential loss of informational assets. Failure to retain documents exposes employer capital to regulatory compliance issues, including an inability to substantiate legal documents.
7.0 Documents of understanding.
Objective: to ensure internal DOU and SLA documentation is approved, complete and up-to-date. Risk: incomplete or undocumented DOUs SLAs could result in improper separation of duties, undefined roles and responsibilities, improper reporting to management, lack of documented approvals, and significant changes to process relationships without a corresponding change to terms and conditions on DOUs and SLAs. Control description: DOUs SLAs are being put in place between all stakeholders of employer capital payroll management team.
8.0 Application and access management.
Objective: to ensure 1. Controls exist for proper safeguarding of applications and IT tools, for example, databases, spreadsheets, that support financial activities for accurate financial reporting. 2. The prevention of unauthorized transmission of data. 3. Applications and/or storage medias, for example CD, that collect or process personal information, PI, and sensitive personal information, SPI, comply with DIF corporate standards, for example ITCS 300, ITCS 329, ITCS 104. Risk: employer financial results could be misstated due to 1. Unauthorized, ineffective, or improper use of applications and/or the handling of stored data. Control description: 1. Currently, employer capital has access to bank application to view only. 2. Employer capital has access to attendance application to view only. 9.0 Approval delegations. Employer capital has no delegation in place, however, payroll is validated by employer capital administrator and HR manager and approved by HRD and CFO. 10.0 Global process flow and controls.
11.0 Employer capital payroll calendar. 12.0 Checklist for payroll cycle. Activity. RESP. Target date.
Action forms name or other. Comments and agreed rules for process.
Before cut-off date. Initiation. PA. 5th day of each month.
Payroll administrator initiate the process. Status meeting planned to check altogether the full list of registration that must occur in the current month to confirm the process chosen for each case.
Registration. Joiners information. PA. Till 08 of each month. Employer_hire form. Doc. An internal HR meeting is planned for the 5th of each month to forecast all new hired people and take if needed decision upon the way to manage them. Rules for process. 1. If joining date is before the 13th of each month, the hiring will processed into the payroll system and people will be paid through the bank transfer. 2. If joining date is after the 13th of each month, and the employee dossier complete with mandatory information for the 10th of each month, the payroll will be processed but these people will be considered as paid with check even if the bank account number is known. Employer as soon as the real start date ID confirmed will request for a manual payment by check.
HR process assumptions. The maximum of hiring will be done within the new process before the 10th of each month to avoid waiting for real arrival to confirm the joining date to the payroll team.
Termination. PA. Till 08 of each month. Employer_termination form. Doc. Rules for process.
For normal termination, The delay before leaving the company is 1 to 3 months. The payslip will be calculated on the received action form basis by the HR team, sent to accountants to establish a manual request for payment, check or wire transfer. Exceptions can occur when somebody who left for holidays doesn't come back and information is known by the HR before the cutoff date for closing. In this case, the action form will be sent to the HR payroll administrator to prepare the termination. The payment method will be check. Last exception, if somebody reigned his contract from one to another, the rule is normally for him to stay at least 5 days more within the company. In this case, HR will provide the action form and will prepare the termination for the customer to request for a manual payment.
Variable elements. PA. Till 10 of each month. Employer_variables form.xls.
Rules for process. The target to send the file is the 10th of the month. One file will be sent per month including all variable elements rather than sending to the HR team several versions of the file. Modifications. Part.
Till 13 of each month. Employer_modification form.doc.
Asterisk for example, this can be a change for personal data, family situation name, bank account number, or any professional change such as salary, job title, department section. Rules for process. The modifications action form can be sent as soon as the change is known by the customer. The most important changes to be validated and sent to the HR team to be considered for the current closing or bank account number, change of salary, increase. Asterisk par employer payroll administrator.
13.0 Anexa. Disbursement controls. 1. Mode of payroll payment. A. Bank transfer. Payroll is uploaded directly into bank system for all employees with valid bank account details. B. Check. If there is not available the bank details, then a check is requested. 2. Employee bank details. Employee sends the request via email on the required changes and the AM payroll administrator updates the system. 3. Employee bank account verification. The employee provides a valid bank account number, bank name, branch, and IBAN. 4. Verification of employee data. Quarterly checks to be done for all employee personal files and records. 5. Duplicate over underpayments return payment. Please refer to CP3. 6. Bank instruments. Employer does not have core banking activities. Employer Dubai has only 2 modes of payment: bank transfer and check. 7. Disbursement to payroll personnel. 8. Contract between employer and bank. Initially set up by employer treasury. 9. Confidentiality agreement. Covered under the initially set up done by employer treasury. 9. Separation of duties. Matrix does exist for input verification validation approvals. Validation.
Validation and comments from HR. Part.
18 of each month.
And mails and meetings. Main contact for answers, payroll admin. After checking, if payroll admin HRD have got questions, comments or corrections to require, an mail is sent to the payroll team with information. Checkpoints. Check the control sheet and compare with previous month if there is any unusual amount, variation in amount, unusual payroll activity. Make root cause analysis, identify whether it is genuine or by error. Check the control sheet on the follows. 1. All new joiners are added and their bank account and IBAN are correct. 2. All leavers are removed. Whoever has left the company and got his/her settlement already. 3. There is no duplication in payment, especially for the cases, who is paid by checks. Employees are getting salary either by check or by wire transfer, but not both. Check Payslips. 1. Against leavers, that the final settlement is correct. Ask leavers to sign the copy of their payslip as evidence that they are agree with the final settlement. 2. Against new joiners, that the payment is correct, especially if it is pro rata. 3. Against all variable elements, unpaid leave, allowances, reimburses, deductions, etc. Prepare and send file to accounting. Pay admin.
18 of each month.
End of the day. All controls would have to be done. Prepare and send file for approval. Account. 22 of each month.
Approval.
CFO CEO.
25 of each month.
Employer CFO or CEO approves the payroll file. Prepare and provide payslips to employees.
Pay admin. 30 of each month.
Manage negative payments.
Pay admin. 30 of each month.
Plan to be generated to employees the last day of the month. All payslips are generated in email. Manage return payments.
Account. Following month.
Negative payment is deducted with the following month. Local overpayment recovery processes and reporting methods exist with items reported on a balance sheet account. For example, negative and duplicate payments are reviewed. Accurate evidence of management review. Documented action plans with aging and timely recovery analysis. Provide reports to the customer.
Account. Following month.
Return payment is corrected with the following month. Local return payments processes and reporting methods exist with items reported on a balance sheet account. For example, wrong bank accounts, IBAN numbers are reviewed. Accurate evidence of management review. Documented action plans with aging and timely recovery analysis. End of document.
The author of this project has been unemployed for 15 months, has a loan of $50,000 from Standard Chartered Bank. The loan was taken for another person, and he fled. The author faces jail and has a disabled daughter. Any help with earning would be greatly appreciated.